Good day, grade 8s. Welcome to the next lesson of maths. Today we're continuing on with the properties of lines. We did the properties of 2D shapes last chapter, and we also looked into one of the properties of lines. If you remember, we looked at property 1, where we said angles on a straight line are supplementary. In other words, they add up to 180. Okay, so we already did that in chapter 9, so I'm not going to go over it again. But we just learned some new words, so we can say it in a slightly different way, which is adjacent angles, angles next to each other, are supplementary, add up to 180 degrees. So again, our reason angles on a straight line. We will continue to use this throughout this chapter. The next property, this one we did not learn yet, is if two lines cut each other or intersect, then vertically opposite angles equal. We can write the reason much shorter, simply as vert op angles. Okay, so look here. Can you see how these two lines form an X? Whenever they form an X, that means the two vertically opposite angles equal each other. So the two angles on the opposite side. So X and 70. So X and 70 equal one another. So AEC and BED equal one another. Sorry, that should be BED. Better. Okay, so AEC equal each other and BED equal each other. In other words, X equals 70 vertically opposite angles. I could also say if there was an angle here and here, they also equal each other. Okay, so you basically look at the two sides of an X and you look at what's inside them. This side will equal this side will equal this side. Okay, that is how vertically opposite angles work. They are one of the more simple ones and easy to use. You basically just look for an X shape. But keep in mind, it must be a perfect X shape. So for example, if we had this, sorry, give me a second guys. So if we had, instead, does not want to cooperate, there we go. Okay, so if we had something like this, where this was bent just a little bit, can you see now it's no longer a perfect X? We can no longer use vertically opposite angles. Okay, it must form a perfect X, as in both lines must be perfectly straight to use vertically opposite angles. So something like this will not work. Okay, so it must be perfectly straight. Both lines must be straight to form a nice perfect X for the two numbers to equal each other. So this side to equal this side and this side to equal this side. Okay, so that is vertically opposite angles. The third property we're going to look at is angles around a point add up to 360 degrees. A shorter way to write it is angles around a point. You can even write it shorter like this, angles around a point, if you want to be really, really short. Okay, how this works is similar to how on a straight line everything added up to 180. Here, if we see almost a full circle, like a revolution, then all of these angles will add up around a point. So all the angles around B will add up to 360. So ABC, CBD, DBE, and ABE all equal 360. So the X, the 50, the 80, 120 equal 360. My reason, angles around a point. I perform algebra and I get X equals 110. This doesn't only have to be 4 angles around a point. There could only be 2 angles around a point, or 3 angles around a point, or 5 or 6 angles around a point. There's no limit to the amount of angles around them. You just have to look if they go in a full circle. So if you get a full circle around one point, that's when all of them will be 360. As I said, it could be 4 angles, 3 angles, 5 angles, 6 angles. Okay, so that's angles around a point. For homework, I want you guys to try exercise 3. That will be the vertically opposite angles, so A, C, and G, but you may have to use some other things, like angles on a straight line. And then exercise 4, I want you to do A, 1, and 3, and I want you to try 7. If you can't do 7, that's fine, just give it a try. It is a slightly more difficult one. It involves all of them, so you'll use vertically opposite angles, angles around a straight line, angles around a point, and you'll have to use your brain. Okay, so I want you guys to try those for me. Those are the 3 properties of lines we are going to learn about this term, and that's where I will end this lesson. I will see you guys next